Welcome to Beyond the Lab, a series by the Office of Career Development within the Biomedical Research, Education, and Training Department of the Vanderbilt University School of Medicine. My name is Kate Stewart, and I'm here with Leslie Kwakye, who was in the Neuroscience Department, right?
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about your time at Vanderbilt when you were here.
So I worked with Mark Wallace, and I was a director at Neuroscience. I started straight into neuroscience, and while in his lab, I worked on multisensory integration in autism and looking at differences in audiovisual temporal processing in autism.
Okay, so what did you do after that?
So after that, I went to Oberlin College. It's a small liberal arts school, and I started as a visiting professor, and I did a teaching postdoc instead of a research postdoc, and then I ended up, continuing on tenure track.
Okay, so how is the academic track a good fit for you personally?
So it's a perfect fit for me, personally. So I love teaching, and I love mentoring undergraduate students, especially students at Oberlin are very enthusiastic. Everything is cool. They're really invested in everything, and so that's the kind of energy that I love being around.
Okay.
And I also get to do research, and I have my own lab. I have the resources to do the kind of research that I like, but I don't have the pressure of looking for external funding.
Yeah.
So I can if I want, but I actually don't need it to do the kind of research that I want, which is in some ways more freeing. So I don't have to do what's fundable. I can do what's exciting for me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So did you have teaching experience before you started?
A little bit.
Okay.
So I TA'd in systems neuroscience a couple of times,
Okay.
Once for Vivian Casagrande, once for Ariel Deutsch. And you do like a little bit of teaching, but it's more like coaching the students to deliver scientific presentations, which ended up being helpful at Oberlin, but we didn't do lectures.
Okay, so tell me a little bit more about that teaching experience.
Yeah.
Like, what were some of the things that you didn't know that you had to learn kind of quickly?
At Oberlin, how to structure a class. and so, you make your own syllabus and you have to decide what level you want to put the material. And so coming out of grad school, it's really easy to put it too high, so to put it at the level of a grad student.
Yeah.
And so you kind of have to slowly remind yourself, especially for an intro neuroscience class, they've never heard about neuroscience before.
Right.
And so you're introducing everything to them. And so, it takes some adjustments to, switch your mindset to who your student is, because you're used to being around all these, brilliant people who know everything about neuroscience, and a lot of times a lot more than you, and then you move to someone who doesn't know anything yet, but they have that excitement, and so it's more about feeding how excited they are about the brain, and then sort of using that to get a lot of information to them.
Okay, so what is your percentage of teaching and research in your role?
It's about 50-50 over the course of your time. So when I first started, it was probably 80% teaching, because you have to figure out how to teach, you have to get your classes together, and you have to fix them because they're not going to be perfect the first time. But for this year, we're actually on a sabbatical, and so now it's 100% research to help offset the early, loss of research.
Right.
But overall, it's about 50-50.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was some of the, besides the extra teaching, what was some of the more surprising things that happened in your first or second year of faculty?
Oh, I think the thing that was surprising, and in retrospect, it shouldn't have been surprising, but you're needed by people. As a grad student, you're only responsible for yourself, and you only have to take care of yourself. And then maybe if you're in a relationship, you help take care of the other person. But then if you're a professor, then all of a sudden you have everybody needing you, and your students need you in your class, in your research lab, and your department needs you. Other people need you. And so it's a lot of, helping people and sort of serving people. And that was definitely a big adjustment and very different.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. So if you had to give, this is sort of your last question, if you had to give some words of wisdom to current students or postdocs who are interested in pursuing that academic track, especially in a small liberal arts college, what kind of advice would you give them?
I would say that they should work on tailoring their research to research that is feasible at a small liberal arts school. Okay. So I always knew I wanted to be at a small liberal arts school, and so I focus on techniques that are within reach. And so I do a lot of human psychophysics, I do electroencephalography, so it's not that expensive. And so I decided to use those techniques rather than something like fMRI, which would never be feasible.
Right.
And so if that's something that you're interested in, either during your grad school or after as a postdoc, you should start thinking of ways to get your research to be money-wise feasible at a liberal arts school, but also working with undergrads.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. We
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
Thanks.